Hello and welcome. Today we're going to rank all the maps in Fortnite's first-person tactical shooter game mode, Fortnite Ballistic. I've previously uploaded a review video for the launch date of Ballistic in early 2025 and recently also an update video checking out the status and changes of Ballistic in late 2025 heading into 2026. Links to those videos will be provided in the description below this video and at the ending. But without further ado, let's get the ranking started. In 5th and last place is the newest Ballistic map, K-Zone Commons. I got to be honest, I'm not a fan of this map. K-Zone Commons is supposed to resemble a busy Korean-inspired city. Since this is another of these god-awful shell maps, it's nearly impossible to recognize however. If you want to see more of me venting on the horrible and lazy grey square design of the shell maps, then you should really check out my Ballistic update video. Anyways, I agree with some of the critics that the map is a bit too large and confusing at the same time. Hammerfall, for example, is also a bigger map, but the design is always clear and more intuitive. Rotations can also take a long time on K-Zone, which can be crippling to less experienced teams. The B point is furthermore a bit too large and open in my opinion. I prefer the tighter A point, but this could probably be improved with a map update in the future. K-Zone Commons is certainly not the most awful map I've ever played, but you can clearly see that it lacks some of the redesign and improvements the other maps received. You can obviously get used to pretty much every design of a map if you play it often enough, but I would overall still rate K-Zone as a below average map. D tier. In 4th place is Stormchaser Cove. It's located on an island right next to a beach. This could be a very atmospheric setting, but we can't really judge it since Stormchaser is also a shell map. While K-Zone is perhaps too large for its own good, Stormchaser probably suffers the opposite fate and is a bit too small. Rotations are not really a problem time-wise, and this can incentivize teams to not even bother with trying to plant the bomb and immediately go for the kills. Nothing wrong per se with their playstyle, but the map perhaps incentivizes it a bit too much. I remember the first few matches on this map however, where I and some of my teammates got lost in a couple of rounds while trying to find the bomb sites and the other team. That obviously got better with memorization, but I think the map changes also helped to improve the layout and make it less confusing. I don't think Stormchaser was ever as bad as K-Zone Commons, but I'm still not a fan of the design of this map either. C tier. In position 3 is Hammerfall. Now we're finally getting to maps which are at least somewhat good. It is based in a large castle area and besides Skyline 10 the only map with an actual finished visual design in Ballistic. You know, the kind of thing maps in every other game have, but which the Ballistic developers for some reason seem to hate more than the devil hates the holy water. In any case, the finished castle looks pretty good. This is how all maps should just release. I'm always saying a really good map needs to have both a good map design as well as an attractive visual design, and Hammerfall now finally has both. In contrast to a lot of the other Ballistic maps, Hammerfall has longer paths instead of the short and tight passages of the other maps, but it actually works quite well here. Design is always quite clear and pretty similar to a classic 3-lane design. I really don't mind the other designs, but it is certainly an improvement in contrast to the more chaotic design of K-Zone and Stormchaser. You can early on spot if the other team is blocking a certain path and trying to reroute. Plus you can actually have interesting long-range engagements, which in a lot of the Ballistic maps are not really viable. I'm not saying that this is my favorite design, but it's certainly good to have it in the map pool. I also really like the unique castle features of Hammerfall. There are a couple of rooms with castle gate doors which can be lowered or risen via the press of a button. Admittedly, I've mostly seen my teammates using those in the most inappropriate moments to prevent our team from finishing off the enemies and leaving them time to recover and regroup, but you can't fault the map for that. The A point is also a medieval throne room, which is just awesome and quite atmospheric. Hammerfall gets a B tier. The second place goes to Cinderwatch. I have to admit it was a pretty tight battle between Hammerfall and Cinderwatch for P2. They have significantly different designs, but both were quite competently created. Cinderwatch is based on a town structure and the only shell map which isn't predominantly grey. Thank heavens. Cinderwatch has many red elements instead of just grey, which is still not great, but it does help you to imagine what the map could one day look like. There have even been leaks that Cinderwatch could become the next Ballistic map to receive a finished visual design. This would be great, since then the 3 best Ballistic maps would all have finished visuals. I will say it for the last time, but it is embarrassing that we even have to talk about it. There should be no shell maps ever, and if so, then they should get complete visuals after a few weeks at most, and not after many months. Cinderwatch, in my opinion, also got a really good size. It is neither too big like K-Zone or too small like Stormchaser. Admittedly, it's ultimately closer to Stormchaser in terms of size, but it feels like Cinderwatch is practically what Stormchaser Cove should have been. Rotation times are therefore also pretty well balanced. This also applies to the bomb sites. They're neither too big nor too small. Cinderwatch really feels like a map where the pieces fit into each other nicely, and not like a map that Frankensteined multiple parts somehow together. Cinderwatch also gets a B tier. And the number 1 spot goes to the first map in the game, Skyline 10. I still think it was a huge mistake to launch Ballistic with a single map, but at least it was a pretty good one. Skyline 10 is located in an industrial Japanese city area and could therefore be based on either a seaport city from the Chapter 6 map or a mega city from the Chapter 4 map. The map features a variety of different pathways connecting with each other, which can give players a lot of flexibility. In contrast to some of the lower rated maps, Skyline 10 despite that never gets chaotic or overwhelming. It's a nice design, and you can see that in contrast to some of the others, they actually took effort with this one and they even released it with a finished design. Sorry, couldn't resist. Both bombing locations have multiple entry points and connect quite nicely with the rest of the map. The B point with its construction site is nearly a bit iconic. The map isn't amazing. None of the Ballistic maps are really S tier maps in my opinion, but Skyline 10 is the best. It is a bit sad however if you already peak right at launch. Perhaps Cinderwatch could get there too if they ever finish it, which seems less likely with every passing month. The last content update for Ballistic was 7 months ago. This is not looking good. Anyways, Skyline 10 gets the only A tier. And that's it. We've got all Ballistic maps ranked. I really don't dislike this game mode. Ballistic launched in a rough state, but they actually fixed a good number of issues I had with it last year. Between April and August 2025, we got somewhat regularly content updates and fixes, and then they just dropped all support overnight. I still think Fortnite needs to completely redesign the FPS gunplay if they ever wanted to challenge the best tactical shooter games in the genre, but it doesn't look like they're ever going to do it. If they additionally had 6 to 7 maps with designs of the quality of Skyline 10 or Cinderwatch, with none of them being shell maps, then Ballistic could be in a really good place. Sadly, we don't live in that world, and this might be the last video I ever do on Ballistic, since the game mode might now permanently be in maintenance mode, or perhaps it will even get removed at some point in the future. As always, only time will tell. And now it has actually happened. After editing the video, Epic officially announced the shutdown of Fortnite Ballistic on the 16th of April 2026. The shell maps will never be completed and you only have a few weeks or days left till the game mode will be gone forever. There were signs there, but I didn't expect it to shut down so soon. Ballistic still gathers a daily player peak between 3 and 5,000 players. This is not amazing, but still more than LEGO Fortnite Brick Life, Party Royale, Legends Landing or Fortnite Festival Jam Stage have, for example. Game modes which all will not be removed. A shame for Ballistic, but what can you do? In any case, thanks for watching the video, and I hope to see you in the next one. By the way, here are the promised links to my original Ballistic review video and my update video from a few months ago.